Hello there. My name's Host Eric, and I'm the pleasant sounding host of Talking with Veggies. I gotta say, I learned a lot yesterday from a guru named Blanco. He gazed at me, and it was just like, wow, that's pretty impressive. I see now, Blanco, why they call it the miracle gaze. Prior to Blanco looking at me, I didn't know what it meant, really, to live. But thanks to his miracle gaze, now I do. What matters? What matters is the number one question on today's show. What matters to you? You know, a lot of us, especially working moms out there, we have our plates so overstuffed with responsibilities and activities and piano lessons for the kid and PTA meetings, and we need to take a step back and just be. And one of the best ways you can do that is to sign up for Blanco's Symposium and experience his miracle gaze. That's right. If this dude looks at you for an extended period of time, it is life-changing, apparently. That's what the advertisement said anyway. So, actually, this is kind of a good segue into the topic of what matters. Number one question. Good morning, Winston's mom. I'm thinking a lot about what matters right now, and the reason I'm thinking about it is because one of my implicit frames, for some reason, I'm not sure where exactly it came from, probably from my parents, who were always very anti-laziness, let's say. But I have good morning, Cerelius. I have this sense that I should be productive, right? It just kind of underlies everything. That I have plans of things to get done, and to the extent that I am getting those done, or something productive done, then I'm more worse. I should validate myself more, or at least critique myself less, than when I'm not getting stuff done. It's an interesting phenomenon that almost I think everybody has, right? Like, pretty much everybody in the world has at some point said, I really need to do this thing that I don't feel like doing. So, first of all, I mean, I think a lot of that phenomenon has to do with, I guess, what you'd call ownership. I think since which you have real ownership of your choices is going to relate to how much you, I guess, dread doing them. People dread doing things they're forced to do, or feel as though they're forced to do, or cornered into doing. People tend to dread going to work after a certain period of time. You know, like, okay, I'm so tired of this job. I gotta just go. I can't believe I gotta go to work again today. I hate this. And then they endure it for long stretches of time. You know. Things with atoms. I don't think things without them can be really said to be matter. They can't really be said to be matter. That's true, but well, they can't be said to be matter. They can be said to matter, though. Like, for example, I don't know if you knew this. I always remember my horse word, but my penis is atomless. It's comprised entirely of metaphysical man meat. But don't worry. By the power of your belief, it feels entirely real. What matters is a question that's constantly, increasingly concerning me, I guess I should say. Because what did I just do all night this last night? First of all, I messed up my scheduling of sleep drugs. Okay. Winston's mom, that's so FI of you. That's not how I operate. No, I'm feeling a responsibility to not regret, or I feel a responsibility to be a genius. I feel a responsibility to make timeless, epic shit. And I feel like I'm not trying hard enough. Last night, what did I do all night long? After I mistimed my Adderall taking, I don't even want to explain why I took one Adderall like in the afternoon yesterday, but I did and ended up staying up all night. I just took one of them too. It's like, it's hard to anticipate the impacts of it sometimes. Anyway, I stayed up all night listening to this Audible book that I bought, the science fiction book. I'm into this Motorset series now that I just started. The book's good. I finally got like, okay, I can't just sit here and listen to this book all the way through. I'm so bingy. I want to, if I'm enjoying something, I want to keep going on it until I'm no longer enjoying it. That's what it means kind of to be a 7. Who really cares what E equals anyway? That's what I have to say about that. So, it makes me think. Here I have this finite number of days left in my life, a finite number of hours per day to make elective choices. Am I choosing well? Is the fundamental question of what matters. Am I choosing to prioritize things well? So the last couple of days, because I've been into a new bottle of Adderall. Good morning, Zaylen Black. I've been sort of maybe less emotionally connected to Rachel. I tend to get a little detached, a little distracted first few days on a new bottle. And I'm feeling, I guess with my introverted feelings, this sense of missing her almost, and then concurrently, I've got a few songs in the works and stuff, but my standards for myself keep getting higher and higher. I listened to some old song earlier today. I was appalled by how sloppy it was. And then now it's being clean though isn't good enough for me now. Right? It's like being clean and clever and not making too many mistakes, like aesthetic mistakes, is just inadequate for me. I want to be better. But being better means devoting time towards being better at whatever. So, if I wanted to be a better video maker, trying to be better would mean really focusing on making a video that's designed to blow people's minds by how good it is or something. YouTube's a weird medium because It's like what comprises a great YouTube video has its very own aesthetics to it, you know. Eric, do you have any thoughts on what functions chess may be using? I've seen much debate on the topic in the community. I personally think it's TX plus NI. I see it as primarily a TENI thing. NI is spatial knowledge more than SI is. SI keeps track of your own space and stuff, but NI keeps track of metaphysical spaces, kind of. But TE, not TI. TI, if you're playing chess with TI, you're doing it wrong. Can you accomplish some modicum of success playing with TI? Sure. But that's not how, that's a very low ceiling. I don't think he is. Aurelius. It wouldn't surprise me if he's an ISTJ, though. I mean, there's a personality type that people think, well, they're probably not any good at chess. Wouldn't surprise me if ISTJ might be excellent at it. Or INTJ. Is it plausible that an INTP could be an amazing chess player? Yeah. I think they'd probably be. I mean, okay, yeah. Certainly it's plausible because the thing about fifth slot is you can unlock your fifth slot within nodes. So since chess is a closed system game, it's very notable. And as a consequence, you could certainly I mean, look, if you're playing with TI, this is the thing. Playing chess with TI means going, okay, if I move my guy there, then he's going to move his guy there, and then I'll go over here, and then he'll go here, and then I'll go here, and then he'll get my queen. Oh, shit. But, that's not how good people play chess. That's how I play chess. Well, that's not how good people play chess. Good people have some sort of sense of the space as, like, they sort of have visual understanding of. I don't know how good people play, but it's not like that. I refused to sleep last night because I need some complete me downtime. So I sat down comfortable, micro napping as your last live stream, shaking my head. Does this live matter? Is it black? If so, yes. If not, we've received no general instructions regarding alternatives to that. I've got an itchy nose. Thank you, Pedro, for acknowledging my pun. What type matters most? They all matter to the person that you are. The thing is, which type is most representative of their type, but least aware of it, is ESFP, ISFP. Which type is most likely to sort of attempt to get around the constraints of being a type? Probably an NTP or an NTJ. ISTJs are very yeah, look, it really takes, in general, I would say, FE and good intuition to game something. Like for example, ISTJs are multiple steps behind me in their gaming of cognitive function stuff and their understanding of it in general. And that's what happens when people get a little frustrated with me. It's because they come in thinking if I do meow, if I answer his questions meow, 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 then I know how he types people. He's going to conclude meow, meow, meow. And they ask those questions, they answer the questions that they think they're conveying information X to me. And that's why in the past, maybe I've concluded X from what person Z said. In reality, their answer reveals to me immediately that it's not X and that they're trying to present themselves as X. And it's quite clear. And, but of course, they're executors. So they have the most difficulty incorporating frames into their own analysis. Because what they really want is to have the type they want to be confirmed or affirmed by somebody with authority, So it's like, let's say I'm an INFJ. Now, let's say I'm a real INFJ, and I'm aware of typology. I've looked into it and stuff. My first battle in this D&D game, after you learn cognitive functions, is in the INFJ world is how do I go about indicating to other people that I'm an INFJ? Because it actually is true that I'm an INFJ, but it's also true that most people who say they're INFJs aren't, and most people who say they are INFJs are told they aren't. Best way to get told you're not an INFJ is to say you're an INFJ. So they're going to want to position themselves as unsure about their type, not having a position on it, until they've got a good origin story for it. Instead, then after they get typed by me, they can say, well, I've been told I'm an INFJ by host Eric. I don't really have a position on it. However, some of those INFJs that I was just talking about are actually ESFPs. Some of them are actually whatever, ISFPs, and they come in wanting that same kind of outcome that the INFJ wants. But the INFJ, unlike those other people, is aware of what I will interpret as gaming and will even sometimes take countermeasures, saying things like, of course, I don't know how much to trust my answer here because I'm kind of aware of where you're going with this. Let's say things like that. You create different characters, like Tiny Man 7-7 and Tiny Man 8-8, who are very different from Tiny Man 6-6. Oh my gosh, you guys, look. We know what matters. I'll tell you what matters. Can Krishna. Son of a go. You could call them personas, Cerelius, or you could call them offshoots. Ontological offshoots. I've got ontological offshoots. Glad to hear. Hello, Brian Allen. Brian. Glad to hear. Allen Bryan's here. Brian Allen. Brian Allen. Allen Bryan's full name is Brian Allen Bryan Allen. INTJs can procrastinate pretty hard if they're aimless for periods of time, sometimes years. Well, see, this is what I'm talking about by what matters. So I'm not busy. One of the problems for some people who are not productive is that they're not busy. That's not going to be the case with INTP and ENTP. We're going to busy ourselves with things, but we don't like committing to following through and maximally realizing any single idea. That's the challenge. And I'd rather be responsible, at least in theory, I'd rather be responsible for a few great works than a million anything less than great works, right? But in practice, I have not just my abstract sense of self to consider, but also my experience day in and day out. I have a low tolerance for discomfort and a long history of indulging myself. I feel a little bit like it's too late now to get any self-discipline. So I've been thinking, well, what it boils down to then, Eric, what's the only thing that's left you could possibly as a strategy to use here? The thing that's possible to use as a strategy is actually FI. I may not be able to muster more self-discipline. I may not be able to more successfully narrow down exactly which project is the best idea to work on, but maybe I could know better which one I really want more. And that's a hard one. That's not much easier, but it seems a little bit more feasible maybe. Yes, Alan Brian. Look, it's true that we can always frame up and down, but it's kind of missing the point. What's the matter is that to which we are directing our attention. That's what's the matter. I struggle to being a metaphysical action type. What do you mean I didn't do anything? I took a lot of metaphysical action. Doesn't that count? Oh, my pee and my pee. Such an incredibly good kitty friend. I'm just continually re-astonished by my cat's beauty over and over again. Oh, yes, what a special kitty friend. So magnificent and good. So just and true. I love you with my heart. Yes, I do. I love you with my heart, kitty. If bipolar are pretty sensitive in my experience, I'm pretty sensitive. I've been crying like every 5 minutes listening to that book last night. So I wanted to listen to the book, right? Basically, what the issue of what's the matter is to what extent ought one prioritize things that have more investment but bigger payoffs, or less investment and smaller payoffs? So, if I'm going to build a house, a log cabin or something, well, that's going to use up all of my work on stuff hours for several months, probably. And it's like just in getting older, have I finally started to think about spending time in terms of opportunity cost? Because as an NE Dom, my first instinct is, ooh, I like this idea right now, so let's just start it. Well, that's how come I get shit done rather than like INTPs that get nothing done, because they don't do that. So it's better than the alternative as far as I'm concerned to do, sort of like start without thinking. But the consequence of it is, you have all these unfinished shit and then the other thing to think about with what's the matter is there are stretches of time, like during Sleepy Week or sometimes not during Sleepy Week, when it's basically like feel good time where I'm consuming media, chilling with Rachel, eating, having sexual intercourses and chatting with people for pleasantness only. And then it's like, okay, well, is this the best thing you can think of to do with your time? Well, no, but kind of, yes, though. So it's challenging because the truth of it is, you've got important things to get done, you better get busy on them. That's an NI truth that matters a lot. And then there's another NI truth that matters there too, which is, Eric, this burden you put on yourself to always be productive seems unwarranted by anything in particular. The thing about it is, I don't think of it as a belief at all. It seems embedded in me. I can't imagine. It's like I don't want to change that part of myself, I guess. But I do need to recognize that there is at least an unshakable implicit value in me that says a really great day spent enjoying myself, watching movies with Rachel, eating nicely, and going on a bike ride and that kind of stuff will always be at the end of the lifetime when I'm doing my accounting of all my choices. That from that angle of perspective, it will always seem like I really should have used my time more wisely or something, you know? What can you do about TE Polar? Yeah, I tend to start without thinking. Horsemonger tends to think without starting. Both of them are bad approaches, frankly. They're both bad approaches. How can you improve on your TE Polar? TE Polar is not so bad. TE is probably the easiest thing of all the cognitive functions to delegate to somebody else. You just say, can you figure this out for me? To somebody else. Well, I want to follow up on your no self-bullying thing there. I think being kind to yourself is very important. And it's something I learned fairly later in life too. I spent a lot of my life speaking condemnatory words about myself to myself out loud or in my head. And the reason for that, I think, I thought about it a lot after I stopped doing it eventually, but it's a way to avoid accountability. It's the way to try to be a child still and say, I'm going to still think about life as this thing where there's periods of you're okay and then periods when you get in trouble. That's what childhood is, right? It's like, because we've been trained in childhood that we should get in trouble when we do wrong. We have standards for ourselves that sometimes we don't meet. Sometimes those standards we shouldn't set for ourselves, and sometimes we should meet them, and we're right to be upset at not meeting them. But the reason I used to beat myself up a lot when I was a drinker is, what did that substitute for? Actual accountability, right? Yeah, but I'm not denying that it's a problem. And I'm not denying that I'm a drunk. And I'm acknowledging that. I am a worthless piece of shit. And blah, blah, blah. That's not being accountable. That's avoiding accountability. It's a fancy way of avoiding accountability that takes all the sound and appearance of accountability and toxically directs it towards keeping you from being accountable. If you're really accountable, you'd say, I'm responsible for my own self-concept. And no, it's like most of the time, accepting when you're wrong is fine. But when you need to be accountable for a repetitive behavioral problem like drinking alcohol, then just verbalizing that it is a problem and acknowledging that your refusal to change that problem makes you a piece of shit, that doesn't you that's just your way of convincing everybody, including yourself, that there's no more excuse for taking action. But you can not take action, then I never really bullied myself much. Well, I bullied myself in life over two things: women and alcohol. Other than that, I've not bullied myself too much. It's like if I felt like I had failed in masculinity department with a woman in some way when I was younger, that would cause me to be very self-lambasting. It's like when I was younger, I don't know how many times when I was younger, between the ages of say 25 or 18 and 25 or 18 and 35 or something, probably between those ages there, how many times must I have admonished myself? Do not be a little bitch, you little bitch. I used to say that shit to myself all the time. So after I admonished myself to not be a little bitch, then I would spend a good amount of time just hurling epithet at myself, hoping that I would learn my lesson this time. Right? It's like, what lesson are you trying to learn here? That, like, in retrospect, it's insane. I was trying to shame myself as a solution to insecurity. That's going to help, right? You worthless piece of shit. How dare you be insecure? It's very much like that sign, the beatings will continue until morale improves. That's the thinking behind that kind of shit, right? I mean, yeah, I see myself as not particularly. My perception of myself in this regard has changed. There was a time when I would have said, I'm definitely very masculine, and I would have resisted any narrative that anything feminine about me because I was insecure about it. Nowadays, there probably was a time period recently in the last couple of years where I felt like, oh, actually, I am quite feminine. I'm very soft like a woman in a lot of ways. I like to talk and I like to converse with people about interesting subjects, and I have a lot of feelings and stuff like that. I'd say at this point in my life, though, I would just say, yeah, I'm actually pretty masculine, and I'm not going to. I'm saying that because somehow because the world's changed. It's like men are less masculine now in general. It seems like. Yeah, a lot of ENTPs are very defensive about it because you're defensive about the equivalent for me is ESTP. That's what that's why I used to call 8 slot function your insecurity function. So it's like you're going to feel kind of like they're your nemesis type. So for INFJ, it would be ISFJ. For INTP, it would be INFP. For EXFP, it would be ENFP. Why do I fear aging? I don't really fear aging at all. I lament that that in my time bank, half of my time about is gone, maybe more than half. And as I reflect on how I spent that time, it becomes just abundantly clear that it was almost entirely seat of the pants. That at no point have I really stepped back, made a longish term plan and followed through on it. I mean, this YouTube channel represents the only time I made a long-term plan and follow through on it. And it was because my plan was, I just make a big pile of random videos about whatever I feel like talking about. That's an easy plan to follow through on because it's not constraining at all. I am not going to Scarborough Fair. I'm done with Scarborough Fair. Last time I went there, we charged $10 for admission. I threw up on the Ferris wheel. I'm done with it. That's why I call it Scarborough Unfair. That's what I wrote in my Yelp review. More like Scarborough Unfair. So I do fear though running out of time, or that the sense that, like, of course, the most central universal fact of reality for all human beings is Heidegger's notion of everyone being thrown in unawares. We're deep into life before we are ontologically developed enough to make real choices about life. And by the time we're ontologically developed enough to make real choices, we're already locked into a bunch of courses and or have already developed a lifetime's worth of habits. So it's this thing that one thing's definitely clear is life is set up to be done properly like this. Dry run, dress rehearsal, see what all the shit is you got to watch out for, and then live your life. But that's not how it happens. Okay. Christian Simon for you. Look, it is true that there are some Hollywood black magic cults that use aborted fetuses to eat, but it's not to give them youth and fame. It's because they're delicious. You ever tried one? Pickled? Delicious. Too soon old, too late smart. That's a great Japanese proverb, right? So it's the way life is set up, structured. It's structured to be this endless progression of snowballing catastrophe from your poor choices. It's like set up to be that. I'm going to make one poor choice and it's going to snowball into this catastrophic. Now, next time I play this game, I'm going to go left that time instead of right because that was a bad idea. You can't possibly get it right in just one try. If you ever played that game, I forget what it was called, but it had like 4 players you could play, and one was a wizard, and one was a shooting guy, and one was a sword guy, and one was a cleric, and you move through this dungeon, but you have to keep putting quarters into it, of course. Anyway, it's like you're never going to figure out how to get through that dungeon in just one attempt. It's like, I'm going to win this video game in 1 quarter. No, you need to get some SI knowledge of what this whole thing's all about. But instead, when we start life, we have no idea what we're doing. We're making choices without any framework or perspective. And sometimes, 6 years after we make a choice, we go, oh, now I understand what the choice I made actually involved and everything. So it was impossible for me to ever make a informed, consenting choice because at the time when I was asked to make those sort of choices or compelled to by circumstances or my parents or whatever, it is not conceivable that I could have understood what the choice entailed because it entailed so much. The only way to learn all that it entailed was to make the choice. I couldn't even find out what all it entailed without sacrificing the potentialities for everything else. That's the problem with causality. What can this material world offer you? It can offer you laughter. It can offer you love. It can offer you good times and heaven above. It can offer you playtime. It can offer you sex. And if you have a house, you can even put in some decks. Yeah. Now you're feeling a cloud. You're feeling life again. You're visualizing those decks and thinking, I could get decks. I could get jet skis and decks. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. We are today learning what it means to be in the moment. That's what I'm going to provide for you now, my miracle gaze. Right now, I want you to just look at the screen. You're going to see my eyes in the camera in a second. I want you to focus on whatever part of your body is feeling any kind of pain, any kind of feebleness, any kind of lack of workingness, anything like that, okay? And then when I gaze into the camera, I'm using my miracle gaze, just you look right in those eyes. And I mean, I'm not making any predictions, but I predict I will completely heal all of your diseases. I mean, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that's all. Pedro Castro, you need to stop talking and get ready to experience my miracle gaze. I'm going to give you a full 10 seconds of miracle gaze. You look right at that screen and get all the healing power of my miracle gaze from it, okay? Miracle gaze, miracle gaze. Miracle gaze, miracle gaze. Miracle gaze, miracle gaze. Miracle gaze, miracle gaze. No miracle whip. Wow, you're healed. It was just, it does work. I thought Eric was lying, but he wasn't lying. He really does have a miracle gaze. No, it's fine, Ken Christian Strong for you. I learned it from this guy, Bacon? No. Blacko or something? Blanco? It's not my idea. Miracle gaze is not my idea. For those of you who weren't here for the live stream last night, Brocco. Yeah, you got to look up Brocco in America, okay? And you will understand what I mean. Brocco in America. Brocco is an ISFP who has, I think, probably, because his express life philosophy is silently gazing at you. Okay? No words necessary to philosophize for your Brocco. And he has managed to create a business in which people pay him lots of money so that he will look at them. Talk about did you look at my gaze, Alan Black? I'm a gaze healer. I'm going to take advantage of my own creativity here, and I'm going to double down on Brocco. This is what I'm going to provide you. Brocco can provide you the miracle gaze. You can get from me the miracle listen. Do you feel me hearing your soul healing? It's squeaky like an old chair. I could silently listen to you with my ear like that. You know what? Miracle smell, miracle sniff, miracle. It's like I think the types that are most prone to magical thinking are NFJs and NFPs. SFPs are also prone to magical thinking, but it's not like, it's more just sort of haphazardness with narrative. Well, it sounds like Buddhism must graduate a bunch of idiots then. That's a terrible school to go to. A scholar tries to learn something every day. A student of Buddhism tries to unlearn something every day. Okay. All right. Master, I've got some good news. I've been working on it. I've finally forgotten the year that Columbus discovered America. 1492. Fuck, I remembered it again. God, I'm working on it, Zen Master. I will unlearn that fact. Miracle senses. Welcome to my miracle licking symposium. Using my taste buds, I will taste your way to miracles. You pick whatever part of you want me to lick. Some people prefer the arm, some people prefer the face. Please, nothing sexual. Obviously this is non-sexual. Breasts are okay, but other than that, completely non-sexual. King, Chris, and Summer Bagoo, if your mom and dad are having any problems and they want, they're going to have to cover my per diem and my airfare and a small nominal fee, of course, but I will, under those circumstances, fly to India and lick your parents well. I will lick them well. I will lick away your disease. That's what I do. I lick my clients to health, to good health. And how sick you are depends on how long I have to lick you. So if you've got cancer, well, one time I cured a lady who had terminal cancer. Her body was riddled with tumors, but I had to lick her for 4.5 days straight. Boy, was my tongue dry at the end of that healing session. She had to pay me $500,000 to do it. I'm a specialist. It is not possible for most people to use the power of the lick to heal. Like cheap parlor trick artists can heal with their eyes, like with a miracle gaze. A little bit more sophisticated, healing with your ears. I can hear, when I hear the sound of your soul suffering, my ear draws that suffering out of your soul, processes it through my beard, pulls out all the toxic parts, dispatches it onto my shoulder as dandruff, and returns it to you cleaned. My ears are dialysis for what troubles your soul. Why are you suffering? It's because you have kidney damage, metaphysical kidney damage. Metaphorically, your soul kidneys are struggling right now. And what I'm going to use is I'm going to use my miracle ear, not the hearing aid, totally different product. Okay, that's why I call it Ear Miracle instead. I'm calling it Ear Miracle. I'm going to use Ear Miracle on you. What is that going to do? It's going to hear the sickness of your soul. It's going to run that whole soul juice through my ear, down through this beard, into this ear, back through out this ear, return it to you clean and shiny. Clean and shiny. Now, this has been proven in a number of studies that I or my associates have performed to be more effective than eating fetuses, more effective than transfusing infant blood, more effective even than not being vaccinated. Biryani is overrated. Pulayo. Biryani is so overrated. I am so done hearing everybody yammer on about biryani. That's so 2019. Pulao is where it's at now. Pulo is like the shit. Teal Swan is not hot. She's is an abomination too strong? horrifying abomination. Is that too strong? I think it's probably a little strong, but oh, what a scoundrel. She is such a scoundrel. Can't you tell? Yeah, I get same kind of vibes from Hurricane King Christian Summer Goo. Like she is not a white wizard. Put it that way. No, listen. My patented lick healing system is only performed upon people who've done the necessary cleansing of their part like in a lick. And if it's part with hair, you have to shave that part. And we rub the alcohol thing on it first. And then we let that dry so I don't lick up any rubbing alcohol. And then the licking begins. Like I said, Ivan. What's a diet for slaves? Slave biscuits? Slave biscuit brand people food? Now, Slave Biscuit brand people food provides you a complete diet for all your slaves. No more fussing and mussing with cooking and cleaning up. Hungry slave? Just give them a slave biscuit. Vegan diet. That's a slave diet? I mean, I don't think anybody who wanted to effectively utilize slave labor would ever dream of feeding them a vegan diet because you need slaves to actually be able to work. So they have to actually eat real food. According to Tesla, he felt like he was 20 at 80. He didn't live till he was 80. And, but I will say this, though, speaking of Tesla, Tesla was one of the earliest pioneers of OnlyFans, actually. Way back at the beginning of OnlyFans. Like, there were only a few people who were using it. Back then, that's where I went to look at Tesla's wine. That's how come I know so much about Nikola Tesla's genitals. I'm considered the world's foremost expert on Nikola Tesla's genitals. No, I never touched them. True. But I spent many, many hours staring at them on OnlyFans. Placebo is like we will pay attention to you and your feeling and then prescribe an action like pill taking. We join you in your intention to feel better. It's going to help you feel better. FE. The thing is here about placebo and stuff like that. Tesla died at 86? I'm surprised to hear that. I thought he died younger than that. Well, I stand corrected. The thing about a placebo effect is, and the gazing thing as well, is what's actually at work there is nothing magical and nothing psychological either. It's the missing force of the universe that people fail to account for. Observation. Everybody knows that observation is a powerful force, but because it's not a physical, because whatever impacts in the physical world, the force of observation has, are viewed as indirect. People don't understand it's a force vector, but that's what the force vector is. If somebody observes you getting better, whether it's you or somebody else observes it, if there's observation of efforts being made to heal, then there's a presumption that those efforts are going to bear fruit. And, the whole idea of being a time wizard is seizing upon the reality that people force their reality to become what their meanings are. I've got a hug for you. Oh, tiny man 6'6". You're so tiny. It's like holding a little baby. Big hugs for you, tiny man 6'6". I do drink lots of milk. Just now I drank some. So, that means she farts a lot. Can Krishna Sampragu just spends most of her day farting up a storm around the house. Just, and her family's all like, Can! God! Somebody open a window. Can's at it again. Meow to yourself, kitty friend. You are such a good kitty friend, and an important kitty friend, a valued kitty friend, and a wise kitty friend, a noble kitty friend, and a majestic kitty friend. You are the kitty who's my friend, yeah. A very important kitty friend. I do cure anything with licking, but I don't have to lick the infected spot. I can lick any spot on the body, and the power goes from whatever part I'm licking to the part that's being infected. Yo, how is what? How's what? How's my day? How's my night? How are my dreams? What matters? That's what we're asking about today. Utter self. What matters? What really matters? See, utter self's demonstrating to me right now what I'm talking about. He comes in here with his banal, pointless bullshit. That doesn't matter, utter self. What does matter? What matters? Me. That's what matters. What are you doing to make me more successful, utter self? Because now that you have your answer, what matters? Me. Why aren't you out there doing it? I'll eat a country rat, but I won't eat a city rat. Okay. Is it because country rats taste better? Well, I've got some good news, everybody. I've done all the testing I needed to do for everybody. This counts for everybody too. And it turns out the best thing to do is to never think about your diet and just eat whatever you feel like all the time. And it works perfectly. That's how you do it. And if you're not doing that, then you're wrong. You're wrong, and you're wrong, and you're wrong. And you're wrong too, Winston's mom. Everybody's wrong today. Except me. I'm not wrong. Of where they've probably been. There's a lot of dirt in this countryside. Brian, do you want to eat dirt? Sounds like you're wrong again. Dirt eater. Wants to eat dirt. Want to eat a bucket of dirt. God. Everyone's such a jerk around here. People force their realities to be what their meanings are. What matters is magical forces, which are people who make meaning. Yes, well, I suppose if you want to say what matters is the agency part of the equation, then yes, that would be the case. Raphael, don't tell me we got another dirt eater in here. That's all bullshit anyway, Al Brian. You just need to drink enough whatever that your pee doesn't get too yellow. What counts as too yellow? That's one of those things where it's tough to explain with just your words. Although I've heard it said, it was darker than the color of straw. Well, I don't really know exactly what color straw is. It's kind of tannish yellow. I don't really think my pee is ever tan. So you're welcome, Cloud. The nice thing about being here right now in general is that you get to hear what my butthole has to say. And that's just me. It's like you have two hosts. You got me, and I've got words to say. You also got my butthole. And he's got words to say too. Our INFJ is passive aggressive. I feel they don't say what they feel about you and what you say, but it kind of affects your relationship with small bursts. Winston's mom, it's okay. You weren't wrong after all. I was just fucking with you. My bad. I was overwhelmed by an urge to be a clown. Get out of here, clown. Clowning around. They're coming out of the woodwork this morning, these clowns. That's what my dad would say when I was a kid and we'd be driving and he didn't like how somebody was driving in front of him. He would say, they're coming out of the woodwork this morning, these clowns. That was his line. You know, when you're with SI parents, they repeat themselves a lot. I think I might have used up my fart juice for a little bit. Who's going to dig deep and judge? Who's they? So Cloud says here, the solution is not care about their opinions, let them think whatever they want. Well, that's true. I mean, it is true that you can't control other people's thoughts or perspectives at all, which is why I never try to convince people. My goal is to just be right. And you can convince some people of some things. But the thing is, the people you are most able to convince in a way that's good are the people who you're almost never going to need to convince because they've got good belief affirming habits. Like they've got a good relationship with their metrics. Are INTJs active aggressive? I don't know what you mean by active aggressive. Is there is the opposite of passive aggressive? I mean, active aggressive, I guess, is like they're not passive aggressive probably because passive aggressiveness generally requires at least some sort of FE understanding. It would seem to me. How does the trait neuroticism translate to cognitive functions? I think neuroticism comes along with high intuition, low sensing in general, but specifically low extroverted sensing. And like, so I've got it. 7th slot, 4th slot, 8th slot are going to be your most neurotic types. Maybe it's no, because INFJs are pretty neurotic too. I think it's weak SE combined with FE in the front stack, but probably not dominant. FE dominants aren't very neurotic. FE tool functions are kind of neurotic depending on how you define neuroticism. Textbook neurotic, like your from your TV show neurotic, is INTPs. ISTPs are actually neurotic, but you wouldn't call them neurotic because they don't talk about it like INTPs do. INFPs can be neurotic, but they're not really that neurotic because they have so much clear understanding of their own authentic feelings and self-concepts. So the types that are really the most neurotic are your NTPs and INFJs. And I used to be a lot more neurotic than I am now. I'm basically not neurotic now. I don't feel like a fraud anymore like I used to, and I don't feel like I don't feel doubt. Being 4th slot SI means it takes me a long time to know certain things. I have to have a lot of experience before I feel comfortable that I know them. I might understand things conceptually, but if they're not symbolic things like abstract stuff, then I have to have a lot of experience with it to get the concept of it. For NI things, I have to have a lot of experience. If I'm listening to a song And I'm trying to determine whether or not whether I'm happy with it, what it should be like, what should change, what should keep, is this good enough to upload, whatever. I have to listen to it more times than it seems even conceivably possible before I have a clear understanding of what it is as a whole. And I think that's why music is the most replayable of all media, is because it's the most difficult to possess in your head. I can possess a plot line kind of in my head. Oh, I know what that story is. I can remember first this happens, then that happens, and this happens. If I were to go through it like a story that I'm familiar with, or I can only rewatch a talking video maybe once. Usually I don't, but maybe occasionally I'll rewatch one. But basically, whatever like pleasure-inducing things are happening because of the words, they have a very limited number of times they can induce pleasure in me. Music can continually induce pleasure for me for my whole life. There are songs I listened to as a teenager I still listen to now that I'm sure I'll listen to till the day I die. I still like to get new music as well. And that's one of the great things about music is as you get older and you keep listening to stuff and discovering more cool stuff, you develop an ever-growing body of stuff that's really worth listening to. And that's cool. You're doing an EP for 8 months now. I can't even count how many times I changed lyric structures that are. Yeah, well, that's the thing, Pedro, is I used to make the choice that I prefer to get things done and be a little less perfect than be too perfectionist and end up not putting it out, not finishing it, just getting stuck, right? I don't want to get stuck on something. But lately I've been getting not stuck, but I've been much more careful about I actually don't have a TI explanation for music. Well, I mean, I have a TI explanation for why I guess that's a TI explanation, but I'm TI explaining why NI is the holy grail. I'm not saying TI is the holy grail in music at all. TI is mostly useless in music. Yeah, Coltrane's got some cool stuff. But see, Cloud, only some music is good. Some music is absolutely terrible. And what matters is why some music is good when not something that all good music has in common is vibration and harmony, but bad music also has that in common. So that's not a useful distinction. Because it's definitely not the case that all music is worth listening to. If you have bad music, it actually causes you, or causes me anyway, ontological discomfort. It's like eating something that's not good to eat, like eating something poisonous. It's not good. It's not good to listen to bad music. You're infesting your intuitive landscape with the wrong magical spells. Music is it's not just the technicality of it. That's the thing. It's not just that it's technically difficult or challenging. It's that even if you're super careful in doing everything properly, you're seeking synergy. And so one of the challenges is something can be very close to hallelujah, but you don't know. Maybe it's the case that you just need to turn this thing down here and add this one note of boop here, and the whole thing just now comes together. Pow! But how do you know that's the thing you have to do? Well, an NI DOM has some clear sense that that's the thing you got to do. For me, as an NI DOM, I actually try a bunch of random stuff and see how it sounds. I try that random thing, sounded, into it. Oh, it would sound a lot better if I moved that a little bit this way, so it lined up with this thing. Oh, now it sounds pretty cool. Well, that implies that maybe I should put this thing over there. That's how I get to NI, the brute force approach. I don't know what I'm trying to get at. I'm waiting to get a little piece of it so it will suggest to me the next little piece of it. Actually, you're right, Cloud. The goodness parameter is melody. It is correct to say that rhythm is king in music because you can't have music without rhythm. But it is also correct to say that that melody is the soul of any good song. That a truly great song, you can just a cappella sing the notes of the melody, and it still rings as true. I don't think music brings me closer to God. I do think that that trying to find that we best understand music metaphorically as true songs are entities that have either been discovered or have yet to be discovered. And songs that don't stand the test of time, they're just disposable, are failures to manifest a true existent song from the ether, and instead are creations. So Dave Matthews has never gotten within 1 billion miles of the ether. Rhythm is part of melody. That's true, Cloud. But what I would point out is that you can have a song that has parts of it, anyway, that are just rhythm, whereas you can't have just melody because, as you point out, rhythm is part of melody. That's why rhythm's king, but melody is key. How do you experience your fifth slot NI? Do you see patterns or synergy consciously ever that moves you? No, and I mean, I will sometimes note such. I see what I see is sometimes I'll see things that could be interpreted as such, but the truth is, I put no weight into that stuff. Like, Rachel's always noting coincidences, signs, symbols in the world, archetypes, and I enjoy incorporating that into my thinking, into my overall frame of reference, but I don't see them as very meaningful. Well, what does it mean to ignore NI? Is to assume that you've got the reins on things, that to the extent that there's meanings to be determined, I will make them not know them. And that when I'm knowing the meaning, it is that usually what that means is, okay, so this is the thing I'm working on. Not this is the truth that I have to adhere to or have to live with. Rather, this is the thing I'm working on. So to be NI ignoring is to assume always that the determinate truth is subject to your cleverness. Often it's not. Sometimes it is. But I think your fifth slot function is something that you can use to judge objects much more successfully than you can use to do anything else. So it's like I could use NI in theory to shoot arrows at moving targets. That would require me to have timing and to feel the, like the perfect shot where one fluid motion, wait, and then wait for the spirit of the earth to move you to let go, and it strikes right in the middle. You could do that with NI. I'm not going to do that with NI. That's not going to be good NI for me. It's not going to be good NI if I'm required to do nothing but reduce other people's ideas to more concise and simple, more easily conveyed, more easily broadly conveyed word packages of those things. If I was always being asked to simply translate other people's complicated NE into easily consumable NI NI that's easily consumable by other people, I'd get tired of that very fast. I could do it. I like to think I'm very good at that, actually. Like if you were to give me something and say, make this concise, I'd be very good at it. But then in that case, I'm given the thing I'm working off of. And so I don't have to use NI as a frame at all. It's purely used as part of the process of accomplishing this thing. Whereas if I was asked to Whereas it's harder for me to always demonstrate concision in my own stuff as I'm writing it, it would be easy for me to make somebody else's thing as perfectly concise as it could possibly be made, given the fact that I'm starting with something that already has some identity. So it depends. When you're talking about an ignoring function or your countervalue function, they do come up and get rendered, but they don't get rendered towards yourself. If you're using backslot stuff, it's because your front slot stuff is not working, or it's demanding coordination with the backslot thing, depending on what you're doing. So when I'm making music, I'm relying on my backslot because I've developed a sophisticated NE-NI cooperation in that context, especially. Maybe not only, but maximally for sure. I've had a lot of practice listening to my own stuff, trying to find the good parts. What comprises good ideas? What comprises stuff with pop? What comprises doesn't? So in that regard, it's active because it's following NE's lead. With TE, again, it can sometimes be active when it's following NE's lead very clearly. When I'm working on music, my TE is very good. I'm a very good producer at this point. I'm very well practiced with the application I use. I continue using the same app I've been using for many years. I have all my keyboard commands set up. I can do anything very quickly, and I have everything memorized. So my hands are just like it starts moving all around, and I'm really good with my TE on that. But when I'm applying it to my life, or if it's supposed to be the frame, okay, now it's time to solve problems. Let's turn on the TE thing. Well, that doesn't work as a frame for me. Now it's time to focus on not possible things, but eliminate possibilities and focus on the singular thing. Well, I can do that, but it's not something I want as the frame. So, like in debate, I'll get a topic. The frame is, how can I outsmart, be more clever, more creative than the other coaches? What cool new arguments can I come up with is the thing that tells me, it helps me start to edit. So first I make a case I have too many different kinds of arguments in there, and then I edit it down. I have to have the NI in place because my NE is going to be successful. If my brilliant, clever idea is going to get to have its day in the sunshine, so I can get my FE gratification of knowing that I outsmart the other coaches, well, then it's going to have to be rendered into its maximally NI form so that you get the most bang from your argumentational buck. And where it doesn't work for me as a frame is when I need to use it in my own life. Well, you have to make a life choice here about this, or this. Well, these two choices are not any good, so that third choice is obviously your choice to go with. But it doesn't matter how much NI makes clear to me that you're gonna have to suck it up and live with reality as it is this time, Eric. If I really don't want to, I continue to believe, sometimes foolishly and without any good cause, that I will somehow be able to force reality to follow my instructions as to how it needs to change. Sometimes, though, I just wait it out. And so the circumstances change, and then NI provides me a more satisfying answer. If I don't like my NI answer, I reject it. NE just want to find the connection, which is a truth in itself, but NI want to find all the connections to one given abstraction to find the whole truth. No, that's not correct. That's not correct. Extroverted intuition, it builds off of existing objects, and it's sort of a negative space thing. It says, this object claims, yeah. What might this object have missed? NI is maximally and correctly attained in things that are not reducible. So you don't see all the connections. You just understand that you're limited in the extent to you explain why it's better. So, it's like Why is Call Me Maybe a better song than Ride by 21 Pilots? It's a substantially better song. So one question I would ask everybody here is if you are familiar with both those songs, Ride by 21 Pilots, which is a famous song, and Call Me Maybe, which is a famous song by Carly Rae Jepsen, then the first thing I would ask you is, well, which one do you think is better? Which do you think is a better song? Now, the answer is definitely Call Me Maybe is a better song, for sure. That's the universal truth answer. It's not just a more popular song. It's not just a song I like better. It is aesthetically superior. It is the objective truth. However, I can't sustain that argumentationally. Why? Because it's an NI matter. 21 Pilots. Now, what would be a closer match, but still Call Me Maybe would win, is we were matching up Call Me Maybe versus Stressed Out by 21 Pilots, which is that's their best song, you know. That's a better one. But it's still not as good as Call Me Maybe. Now, there's a number of possible responses people here in the chat could have to hearing what I'm saying. Number one thing you could say is either, Eric, you're wrong. The 21 Pilots song is objectively better than the Call Me Maybe song. Another thing you could say is, Eric, you're wrong. Neither is objectively better. It's a subjective matter. Another thing you could say is, Eric, you're right. Call Me Maybe is objectively better than 21 Pilots song. Or fourth thing you could say is, it depends on what mood I'm in, something like that. I don't know what else you could say. You could give a lot of different possible responses. But the truth is this: Call Me Maybe is objectively a much better song. It's objectively quite a triumph of a piece of art. You know, it's triumphant. It's timeless. People are going to listen to it forever. And the other truth is, I can't exactly explain why. You could say they both suck. That'd be another response. Okay. I can't exactly explain why, but I will tell you somewhat why. It's because of the clear identity and completeness of Call Me Maybe that make it as though it were beginning its own genre of music. An example of the start of a new own genre of music. The Beatles have a lot of songs like that, where it's so timeless that it almost well, obviously I'm not going to look at it now, Candace. You just informed me, hey, Eric, read my messages because I'm really hating you right now. Well, no, goodbye. I do think the popularity correlates somewhat with the archetypal achievement level of a given piece of music, but only somewhat, because there's a lot of people who are susceptible to being tricked by something other than timelessness, or actually enjoying things that aren't really timelessness. There's, if you're talking about somebody who's not really a musical artist, somebody who's more of a musical music industry success story, like Beyonce. A lot of people are going to like Beyonce because she's got a good producer. She's going to have some sort of at least kind of catchy beats or something in there, and it's going to take advantage of some sort of ornamental stuff that seems on the cutting edge as far as style goes. And she's gonna have good video, and she's gonna have dancing and stuff like that. But that's true, Pedro Castro. That is true, but it's not true when you look at the top level group of stuff. The top level group of stuff includes random songs from random genres, and they all stand out as better than the rest of the songs in their genre. So, but because there's a lot of people with fourth slot NI in the world, fourth slot NI I've noticed is a placement for NI in which people have usually pretty bad taste in music. Also, polar NI, terrible taste in music. Eighth slot NI. NI is where good taste comes from. Now, it maximally is attained in NIFE, but NITE will still have much better taste than ISITE, right? That's terrible taste. It's only objectively better when evaluating from a certain system, but not necessarily better in a personal sense. It's purely subjective and could like Ride more. Well, the thing is, what I would say about that is if somebody liked Ride more, there's two possibilities. If they say, in general, I choose to listen to Ride more and turn off Call Me Maybe. And what I really mean by I like it more is I think it's better. Then they are either not on an aesthetic track, which means they're never going to be right about music, or they haven't gotten there yet in their aesthetic track. At some point, they may realize, oh shit, you know what? That song's dumb. I hate that song. And I really do like this other one. I was wrong this whole time, depending on how their art goes. So the thing is, when I'm talking about taste in music, remember that you can't establish good taste in music by pointing to good things you like. You establish good taste in music by not ever pointing to bad things you like. Because everybody's going to like plenty of good stuff. Good stuff's easy to like, even for people who are chronically wrong about music. The problem isn't liking good stuff. The problem is liking bad stuff. That's the mistake that people who have bad taste make, is they like bad stuff. Technicality, politics, video, etc. only gets you so far. Well, so, BLM is popular because they resonate with a certain dark archetype in humans. BLM is popular for the same reason every wrong-minded buttfuckery is popular. Because people would rather feel loosed in venting their, as they understand it, totally justified, righteous, indignant outrage than they want to solve any problem. People want justice more than they want solvency. And so if somebody's coming in here and arguing in favor of Black Lives Matter, what that means is they don't care about the problem. They want to complain. And they want somebody to look ashamed while they wag their finger at them. Because they don't have an actual person to blame. Because it doesn't work like that. But they can't think about systems properly because they're dumb. I mean, the music industry is the same thing as the people who are producing and selling music. But I don't think that people like bad music because it's shoved down their ears by the music industry. I think that everybody is pushing what they want to succeed. If they're musically bad but have excellent TENI, they might successfully market and sell their terribly bad music. After all, Blanco, or whatever his name is, he successfully marketed and sold looking at people. No, philosophical thinker, yours is the wrong position on taste. Mine's correct. Who cares if they're communists affected? The problem with BLM is they're racists. They're so racist, they use a racial term in their name. But when I asked one of them the other night, can you come up with a single public policy that explicitly uses race as a criterion that's a good idea? Nobody can. It's just wearing a, a disguise. It's disguised as dumb, Raphael. You got to look behind the disguise and see the smart coming underneath it. Postmodernism has destroyed the pursuit of excellence. I don't agree with that either. I would say that right now, what's happened is narratives were allowed to decay into rotten mush because there's a lag. You need the narratives robust when the time comes for them. But often you don't really need the robust narratives because things are pretty stable. So if you let the narratives rot during periods of stability, then when it comes time to actually adjudicate important questions like COVID and police brutality, then you fuck it all up because you've let your habits of democracy wane. Indian reservations. Well, you know what I went on did this year at Horseman Board? I said this spring I'm going to make Indian preservations, and I've got so many jars of preserved Indian out there. It's a little gamey. It's not a fruit flavor. It's umami. Tastes like human flesh, but with a zesty kind of all natural native people's flavors that you just once it takes a while to develop a taste for it. Once you do, it's like it'll be the next craze in Australia after you're done with Vegemite. Ignorance is evil. So are ignorant people evil? If you were teaching a class and one of the little kids in the class got a question wrong, would you point to them and say, "Evil! You ignorant evil!" Strictly for breakfast. What's strictly for breakfast? Man juice? Man seed is strictly for breakfast? I don't think of man seed as really a breakfast food. More like a dipping sauce. Yeah, Hitler was dumb. He was really dumb. Yeah, I could say he's dumb. He's a very, very dumb person. Like, he doesn't have any good warrants for anything. He doesn't have any good justifications for his shit. The fact that he was able to connect with that whole population of people on such a intense level suggests he wasn't that smart. But, he could have been super, super smart, but that seems very unlikely. He wasn't a very good military strategist. I mean, it wasn't very smart to invade Russia, right? I think Hitler was an ENFJ, but he could have been an INFJ because the thing is, Hitler did a bunch of meth. He was a meth addict. The Nazis made a lot of meth during World War II to give to their soldiers, and Hitler got it. They gave the soldiers the ingredients and the recipe for it so they could make it themselves. But anyway, Hitler had his own personal doctor who would inject him daily with Vitamulchin, which was a special mix of vitamins and meth. Because it was definitely the vitamins that were doing it. I'm saying if he was on meth, that would explain his ability to get so much stuff done. I don't think of INFJs as being quite that motivated to do, but that's in the initial couple of years of a meth binge, that's a little bit of a different story. Does the joke mean I accept? What was your suggestion? I don't remember what it was. I don't see what it is. Oh, horse mumbler, asking me questions that require me to scroll up. That's so uncool. That is so uncool of you. Party foul, Indian reservations. I think I can Indian reservations. But what the hell are you talking about? How am I supposed to keep track of all this stuff that you obviously assuming I've inferred a lot of stuff that I didn't make the connection on yet. Hitler wasn't a front man for an agenda. He was an individual who successfully worked the system to push his agenda. I mean, you got to remember, those kind of systems have a natural momentum to them as well. So once a country's taken a given course, they're stuck on that course for a while. Even if they sort of realize, oh, this is a big mistake, maybe like Trump. Well, we're stuck with him now. We have to finish skiing down that slope to the bottom before we can get back on the chairlift. Hitler was being used by the elites. He became aware of it and forked them over. Well, Hitler was making a move politically, and the other political players also were making moves. That's an accurate way of describing it. Were they trying to use him and him trying to use them? I'm sure they were, no doubt. Sure, they were trying to use each other. But the point is, Hitler successfully pulled it off in that he burnt a place down and said it was the leftists, and then he basically bullied the normal statists into submission. Oh, Indian reservations as an example of reasonable race-based policy. Okay, I see. Yeah, okay, thank you. Now I understand what I'm saying. I mean, I don't see it as reasonable. If you think Indian reservations are reasonable, then you must be supportive of my efforts to get a cut from all Indian reservation gambling revenues, because I periodically am that kind of Indian, at least briefly. I'm part of that tribe and that tribe and that tribe, not all at the same time, but over the course of the years. So I want a cut of everything. I want to get admitted. And if I were to go to the Indian tribe and say, admit me, they say, well, what percentage Indian are you? I say 100%. You don't look like it. Well, I mean, I think you look black. Does that mean you're not an Indian? We're Native Americans. I know. I prefer to call us Indians. You know? I prefer to call us Indians. Because while I am a Native American, I've always wished I were feather, not. I always wished I was dot, not feather. Instead, I was feather, not dot. I'm not sure how extroverted Jesus really was. The Bible repeatedly refers to him praying by himself. I don't think that Jesus was. I don't know what type he was. What matters? The number one question is, what matters? Because what should I be doing with my time right now? I'm enjoying this. I'm having a fun time chatting with everybody here. There's 20 people here, which is a good number. It makes me feel, when there's more people here and the chat's moving faster, I have a longer, I feel more satisfied by having done this thing. And also, I want to continue doing it longer. It has momentum longer. But the real issue is, if I were to tomorrow say, Eric, that you really did it yesterday. You spent that day perfectly. You made all the right choices of what to do, and you avoided pitfalls of wasted time work and meow, 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 right? How would this day look then? If I could start the day over, go back a day and plan out today, what do I want to do? Right? I have so much liberty. I have limited freedom because I have limited resources, but I have so much liberty. Well, you're sidestepping the point here, first of all. When you're suggesting that there's an existing racial policy that is, first of all, it's actually not a racial policy. It's actually a sovereignty policy. The reason the Indians have their own reservations is not because they're a different race, it's because they're a different nation, supposedly. Like, they were here having their own nation before we got here, and they didn't want to become part of it. They said, we retain our national sovereignty. And so, the U.S. has mostly done what I would call national sovereignty theater on behalf of the Indians. But as far as the actual reservation lands, they have something much, much more akin to real sovereignty in terms of the day-to-day operations within those boundaries. So the answer to that question is no. I would not mess with the status quo. But that is not. But as I said, because you're presenting something that exists in the status quo and that has a bunch of old growth growing on top of it. It may have been a bad idea originally, but just like dumping trash in the ocean offshore, somebody goes out on the boat, they dump a bunch of trash in the ocean, a bunch of old refrigerators and stuff. It's a terrible thing to do until 20 years later when there's a coral reef growing up on it and it's home to all these fish. Then you don't want to take the trash out of the ocean, because even though it's bad to put trash in the ocean, it's worse to destroy an ecosystem that's growing up around the trash. And you might say, well, then maybe it's not bad to put trash in the ocean. No, it is bad to put trash in the ocean. So it is bad to set aside lands for people of a certain community, whether it's, a family or a bunch of families or an Indian tribe or my church group or whatever. Everybody should be treated exactly the same. Nobody should have group privileges like that relate to public policy. It's just plain fucked up. Of course, it was even more fucked up what happened to the Indians back in the day. But I can't change history. You can change history, you can't change history. So I would say, as a consequence, I would not mess with that. That arrangement is what it is, and just leave it as it is. But I don't think it's an example of a good race policy. I think it's an example of what happens when you have terrible race policy. Why are the Indians on reservations? Is that an example of good federal race policy? No, they're on reservations because race policy always is bad. And in this instance, it's manifested in the badness of Indian reservations because they were forced to leave where they actually lived because they weren't given any credit for owning it. Nation is a subset of race? That's not true. Well, that might be the law, If what you're saying is Native American nations are considered subsumed by their tribal race, then fine. But if you're saying that in reality, nation is subsumed by race, then that's factually false, because there's nations with people who self-identify as different races. I mean, that's the presumption, Swift Eagles, that races used to be nations, because what you see is sort of phenotypic homogeny in regions that's dwindling, but left over from times of less travel or less easy travel, less easy moving away and stuff. Just generally more localism. So, the thing is, it's important also to remember, Swift Eagle, that there's no such thing as a race. It's not a real thing. It's just a made up sort of folksy term like IQ that doesn't reference anything in specific, that supposedly references a conglomeration of things, but it's much less empirical than IQ. It's just It's just sort of, it's the equivalent of like which winter holiday you celebrate. Do you believe in Santa Claus or Chanukah or Kwanzaa or whatever? They're not. It's not a real thing. Like it doesn't leave some imprint on your soul that you have recorded in your official record one Kwanzaa or something. That's silly. It doesn't work like that. There's biological stands for racism. What do you mean there's biological stands for racism? What do you mean by stands there? I think you meant to type something else. So look, there are tests out there that suggest that babies react well to faces that look like them and less well to faces that look more different from them. But that's easily explainable as a instinctual sense of who your family is, right? Because if you're a baby and a kidnapper comes in to kidnap you, you may not, you're still encountering new people coming around, But if the kidnapper looks very different from everybody in your family, then even a baby's going to be scared. People say, well, see, that proves there's a genetic basis for race. No, it doesn't prove that at all. It proves that, in fact, yes, people are more comfortable with that which is more similar to them and less comfortable with that which is not so similar to them. And because the eyes are the only sense that a baby can really use when dealing with meaningfully, when dealing with a new person, is going on some sort of visual cue. Now, some people, here's the other thing, like you may have, if you're a parent, you may know this. When Delilah was very little, and I one time came home from the barber shop and had a totally different haircut and trimmed beard and went from way bushy to way not bushy, and she burst into tears because she didn't know who I was for a second. And it was very alarming to her and concerning when she realized it took her a little while to sort of get the hang of that thing. Same thing as that. It doesn't prove races exist. It doesn't prove that there's a biological basis for haircut bias. No, it proves there's a biological implicit understanding of similar, dissimilar on whatever vector is available in front of you. And for the most immediate vector is going to be looks. The root of nation means birth. Nationals share common heritage. You definitionally can't be part of the same nation with somebody of a different race. That's not true. I mean, the problem with that, first of all, is what I keep pointing out is that this thing you keep referring to, race, isn't a thing. It's not real. So if your definition includes black, then I'm not going to know what your definition means because I'm never going to know what that word means. So it doesn't mean anything. Regardless, host mumbler, regardless of the root, the actual definition of nation state or nation and the definition of race as they are used in contemporary parlance is contradictory to what you state here. It is not the case that you definitionally can't be part of the same nation with somebody of a different race. No definition of nation and no definition of race that you can find in 10 minutes will say anything of the sort. What I just said is true, Horse Mumbler, and what you just said is not responsive to it. That in the contemporary parlance, no person means that when they say the word race. No person means that when they say the word nation, and no contemporary dictionary is going to have those things in the definition. You'd have to look hard to find it. That's what I said. Your response is not responsive to my response. And I'm not conflating race with phenotype. I'm saying other people are mistaking phenotype as indicative of something that doesn't exist called race. Well, no, but what I'm saying is if you want to argue that I'm wrong definitionally, then you're going to have to win one of two definitional arguments. Either this is common parlance, and it's how people use the word, or it's a term of art, and scholars define it like this, and we should define it in a scholarly fashion. You don't have either of those, so you lose the definitional argument. I mean, that's how one prefers one definition over another when they conflict. And sometimes the reasons will conflict. So sometimes one person will have a definition that's common parlance, and the other person will have a definition of the term of art, and then they can argue that one, or which should we prefer when one of us has common parlance, one has term of art or scholarly use. Well, okay, well, I think if we were to look at scholarly definitions, one supporting my understanding of it would outnumber those supporting yours. So then we turn to contemporary parlance. If let's say it's a wash, though, we go to contemporary parlance, I win, no doubt. Common parlance, how it's actually used, normal usage of the word. Well, you lose because you said you won definitionally. If you hadn't made that claim, I wouldn't say you'd lost. But since you made the claim that you won definitionally, you'd have to win the claim that your definition was a more reasonable definition to use in this context, and you've lost that argument. So since you are the one who said adverbally that it was definitionally that you won, you are wrong. And you did lose. It's your fault for putting that word in there. No, Ivar Wolf, race and IQ are not linked. What's happened is that people who want to use race as some sort of meaningful metric for something, well, Horseman, you're avoiding what I said. I'm sure we could both find scholarly definitions supporting our side. So let's turn to common parlance. And we both know that most people, when they talk about a nation, the USA being a nation, they would say true. If I were to say that anybody encounter the USA is a nation, they would say true. But if they were using your definition, they'd have to say false. TI wants to clearly define underlying dynamics. TI really wants to be able to work with stuff metaphysically, which means reducing it to some sort of binary. Understanding that you're going to lose some of the actuality or complexity as you're having to make you can't, like, if I make a map, it's less detailed than the actual terrain because it's a symbolic representation of the terrain, not the terrain itself. So what's always going to be a point of conflict is I'm going to try to determine all these dynamics of functions. Somebody who wants to dissemble or negate is going to come in and say, but it's more complicated than that. Well, yes, it is more complicated than that. Okay, but common parlance means common people, not just horse mumblers, intellectual friends with peculiar interest in Indian politics. Okay, those are not the common people, horse mumbler. You are not. That is not common. Why does something that divides people rule? And what divides people? What's dividing people here? I mean, it's not that something that divides people rules them. It's that when people try to rule, division occurs. We're in a society that has to balance two competing factors, one of which is protocol orderliness, applying rules fairly, making sure the rules are sensible rules that actually accomplish something desirable, making sure they're applied fairly to everybody, no corruption, stuff like that. It's sort of the TEA end of things. But the reason why people can be so divided by something like Black Lives Matter is because many people think that what matters is to be on the right side. Whereas what I think matters is to speak the right way and to make sure you're using the right words. If we use the right words, then we'll be correct without being divisive. So look, BLM is not all about enslaving people, but the consequence of BLM is a negative impact on balance to rights, because either they're going to win some parts of their narratives, in which case individual equality is sacrificed, or they're going to lose their arguments and do something dumb like tear down statues, in which case security goes up. Good and evil are things. They are things. Okay. The good is that to which we appeal when we affirm. Is one way to define it. And we know this is the case because even people advocating evil advocacies insist their advocacy is for the best. Nobody advocates something saying, this is a really bad idea, a really evil idea, we should do it. They always say, this is a good idea, it's going to accomplish good outcomes. So we do know the good and evil are definite things that are easily defined. Good is that to which you appeal when you advocate. And evil is evil is the abdication of your moral agency. Well, no, by my definition, then that would not be evil because you did not abdicate your moral agency. It was taken from you without any choice on your part. That's a good question. So by my definition of evil, then no, that wouldn't be evil. That would be you had no responsibility for it, presumably. Like Rachel is not evil at all. It's a little strong to say this, but Kimberly was evil sometimes. Now, Rachel did something more dramatically bad than Kimberly ever did. Rachel trashed my dad's garage, broke the garage door opener, costing $1,000 to replace, squirted the hose into my dad's car, and left it running in the garage, the hose, and like squirted a bunch of like oils and stuff around the place. So you can see that the evil is a thing, but it can't be, you have to factor in NI considerations as to whether something comprises evil. And we can basically determine it with TI if we define it like I define it. The abdication of moral responsibility, or the abdication of moral agency. That means you have to choose to do that which you know is wrong. And as you say, well, we don't all agree on what's wrong. People cannot bear to see its evils touched, even if only to be eradicated. I don't agree with Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Across the board, I think he's full of poo. Nations like man are teachable only in their youth. With age, they become incorrigible. Once customs are established and prejudice rooted, reform is a dangerous and fruitless enterprise. I mean, that's the thing. Is Jean-Jacques Rousseau had a limited vision because he's assuming the only way to address problems in society is adversarial. That you got to cut out the cancers or something. That's not the case. My approach is systemic. By changing the way people talk and think, then you don't have to do anything at all. Everything takes care of itself. But in order to do that, I need to have the bully pulpit of the presidency so that my words are heard and talked about. People can disagree or agree or whatever. But if they're talking about the right kind of arguments, they can't help but operate within that frame then. And that will change everything. BI DOMs. I'm a BI DOM. Butt DOM. I'm introverted butt. My dominant function is introverted butt. That's the essential matter to pay attention to. Farts and poo. And, butthole chapping. I gotta tell you, the other day, I had like multi-poop day. And until like the third one, we were out of wipes in the bathroom. I didn't go get another package of wipes. I just used toilet paper. Boy, was my butthole chapped. Is any particular type prone to crime? ESTPs are prone to getting arrested. Actual crime is a whole different matter. Because society has chosen to criminalize drugs, your action types are going to be more likely to get arrested. Who's going to do the most drugs? Probably ENTPs and ESTPs and INTPs and ISTPs. Probably those are the most drug doing types. So, since the majority of people arrested for crimes are arrested for drug crimes, then ESTPs, ENTPs, ISTPs, and ENFPs, ESFPs, and INTPs, those types are all likely to want to do drugs because they got an action function in the first or second slot, And if you do drugs often enough and you have some bad luck, you'll get arrested. Well, you think they don't get very soft toilet paper? Are drugs equals bipolar because FI equals love of life? Okay, so then are you doing a missing generalization problem for me? Okay, the missing generalization is no drugs ever equal love of life. Right? Am I correct? Did I do the logic correctly? Why are dealers criminalized? If it's okay for people to do drugs, why isn't it okay for them to get them? I mean, I think most types are likely to have some sort of relationship with drugs. I think the types that are least likely to have a drug problem are ISTJs and ISFJs. Maybe ESFJs and ESTJs as well. SI1, SI2. Those are the types that are least likely to have a drug problem. I mean, the thing about people in the throes of drug addiction, as I was when I was a drunk, is part of the reason why they can't do their drugs sustainably at all. It has to do with the fact that they're not happy. Their life's not set up properly, and so they're having to continue to work on their computer while it's sort of having problems. It's got some sort of like virus, it needs some sort of driver update, and so it's running like half-assed. But you can't restart the computer. You got to keep working on it. That's what it's like with having a drug problem. You never feel like you have time to resolve the drug problem because the life problem is so pressing that you're constantly going through this cycle of dealing with the stresses of life and then needing to reward yourself with alcohol. And so you never restart the computer, so you just run on partial cylinders for years and years and years. When you do reset that, though, and you put yourself in a better life situation, then you're more likely to successfully manage your temporal bargaining stuff, which is to say, sustainably have intoxication firefighters maybe, but not all the time. Or if you do have them all the time, then have sustainable intoxicants like marijuana. That's managing your firefighters well. But when drug addicts are in the throes of that terrible place where they certainly aren't getting any pleasure out of it. It's not helping them to experience life in any meaningful ways, harming their ability to live their lives almost exclusively. It's not just because they're addicted to drugs. It's because their self and their life doesn't appear to them to offer enough promise of being better than the sort of gratification thing. Well, I may be miserable in general and feel like a big failure, but at least I get that hour of gratification when I get home from work and I have my first couple of drinks. That's what it used to be, is like the gratification hour. After that, I was kind of loaded and forget about it. Before that, I was at work an hour or two. You know, if you're feeling pretty shitty about yourself because you're such a drunk and life's stressful and hard because you got to do all this stuff all the time, then it's pretty hard to deny yourself that one little satisfaction. And you have to get on the other side of it to even consider managing that stuff correctly. Now, for me, I can't drink successfully. So even though I'm in a good place now, I still wouldn't be able to drink successfully, because one thing I've determined about alcohol, specifically as it relates to me, is that particular drug, one of the impacts of that drug is that it makes me make poor decisions about consuming that drug. So as soon as I have any alcohol in me, I tend to make poor decisions about whether or not I want to consume more alcohol, etc. And then, so I know I can't sustainably drink. So being successful at managing my firefighters, therefore, means for me limiting the intoxicants that I consume to exclude alcohol. I'm going to play a couple songs on the guitar now. I feel like doing that. I feel like I miss the guitar. I miss music. I feel so happy though too right now. I feel really. I feel kind of disappointed in myself, but also kind of amused in myself. But also this sense of like, well, abstract questions aside, certainly it's a pleasant morning, and I think it's going to be a fun day, you know? Okay, so I'm going to grab the guitar here. I'm going to play some musical songs that I have written over the years. In my ongoing efforts to accomplish the level of achievement called pretty good. One of these days I'm going to get all the way to pretty good. Then you guys are really going to see something. Let's see if I can get the lyrics for that. I'd like to play that song. Florence. Flo left for snow an hour ago. Even though everybody said, wait, no, she wouldn't live. Florence. All right, everybody now. Eyes up here, eyes over here, eyes over there. Look to the left, look to the right, fight. All of that stuff. Come on now. Hurry it up. Go on. What's taking you so long? Duplicate. I'm going to duplicate you. Oh, yeah. I just duplicated that tab. I'm so naughty. They said it couldn't be done, but I duplicated the fuck out of it. That's what I do. That's how I roll. So they call me the duper. Dupster sometimes they call me. Dupster. Doopy. Dupes a lot. All right. Here we go. Walkies. Slow leopard snow an hour ago, and though everybody said, wait, no, she couldn't stay, it'd be wrong. She'd already been there too long. Floors could hit the things they said. She preferred the words in her head. She'd take the wheel, heading due east in order to feel. She hurtled towards space, picked up the kid, surveyed her mood, saw it down on her face, and slowly unglued. Slowly unglued. Chicago now loomed where Theodore lived. They made town Flo and the kid drove to a hood where nobody should. And Flo did what she said she would. Florence was mad and eager to shout. The kid had been bad and had to get out. Reclining the seat, the kid was a liar, pretending to sleep. The kid had conspired, and justice at least for what the girl did. Alone onward east, Flo booted the kid. Flo booted the kid. Persistence feels entrapping. Florence can't stay one place long. I can't remember this part. Now she's on her way to Joplin. That place too will end up being wrong. Now Theo received. I gotta move this so I can see the next lyrics. Theo received a call from the kid. He's from Chicago, as previously said. Young like a kid, he hopped in the car. Here's what he did. He drove to a bar outside of which stood the kid and her stuff. Out of the car, and they drove away. Yeah, by Theo that day. Onward east. Flo booted the kid, keeping the pace, keeping the pace. Well, I did a pretty terrible job of playing that song. It's been a long time since I played that song. I have to practice that one. I got to figure out how the chorus goes too. Let's see what else I can play that could play better than that. Maybe do a good job instead of a shitty job. That would be an interesting change of pace for me. This song I can play well. And every time I play it, I always think of your mom. She was so grateful. It comes from skating. You redefine the meaning of the word man for me, is what she said. Really? In a good way? No, not at all. No good comes from skating on with them whom you'd mistaken for the one. habituated defense and indecency, self-inflicted eventually once the search is done. Driving in the car last night, we had a massive fight. Each insisting we were right and the other one to blame. So when you pulled that stunt, I screamed something awfully blunt. My words as wrong as they were dumb. I've earned my share of shame. It's each of our own failings, not us doing the nailing to the wall. We fear so the others sailing off to reset their life and all. You can trust me, I can trust you, though neither trust ourselves much true. The love lies deep between you and me, at least about that we can both agree. Driving in the car last night, we had a massive fight. Each insisting we were right and the other one to blame. So when we pulled that stunt, I screamed something awfully blunt. My words as wrong as they were dumb. I've earned my share of shame. My share of shame. You're not going to live, you fly on me. You're not going to live, you stupid fly. You decided to fly on me, and now it's time to die. Okay. Now, the real question, who has a thought? Who has a thought? Gerald has a thought. Gerald has a plot. Gerald has a shot. Get the margarine tater tots. He's got a good idea for the name changing business. Thinking now about what he'll go Christmas when their his friends change their name. Gerald always thought that there'd be chance enough to return to the work that's rough. He'd get back to it eventually, but his visions piled up and his plans would interrupt all the work that started off so hopefully. Now his mind's back on his business, thinking of changing factless to listless. So how all the people will tell his name. And Gerald knows he understands every more clearly now. He won't provide explanation regarding the why or the how. He'll see you, I know you, from inside your heart. Exciting, delighting, Gerald plays his part. But Gerald still knew it's too much to do, and he dropped time in the interview. Too much to be but, so where now and what? Too much time spent picking the skew with you. Gerald has a thought. Gerald has a plot. Gerald has a shot to get to Marjorie's tasty spots. He's got a good idea for a name-changing business. Thinking now about what he'll call Christmas when they hire his firm to change that name. Gerald has a thought. Yeah. When you're feeling really sad, don't frown and act all mad. Just smile and forgive them for their flaws. forgive my doubt. She holds back and I am lost. My brain is beautiful, smooth, no wrinkle. My brain's a supermodel. When there's a company that wants a brain in their commercial, they'll hire me. My brain is smooth and flawless. Oil of Olay, intracranial. It's the special cream I use. Administer through the nasal cavity, and you also will be true to your most beautiful brain. The smooth and plain kind, the kind with no wrinkles, the kind you don't mind. A beautiful brain, as beautiful as the one inside my head. I'm a eat smooth. That's real proper English there, Pierre Castro. I'm a eat smooth. God. As an old person, I'm outraged by young people's use of shorthand. And when do you people stop writing in cursive anyway? Huh? No, you can't use your computer in class. That's cheating. Everybody knows that real learning occurs with slide rules and a stick up your ass. Likely story, Cloud. Likely story. Everyone's drawing my skepticism this morning. This is my skeptical face. I'm a little skeptical of that. I'm a very skeptical person whose skepticism skepticizes you. Just like your boat capsizes in the stew when no one wants to steer it anymore. That's a great song, Eric. It's really, really great. You're so good. You're so great at writing this song. There's that one. No. We'd like to learn about how you use Google Docs. Are you interested in participating in a 10-minute survey? Not right now. Sounds like, yeah, a little bit like now. What else do I want to play? I don't even know. I don't even want to play. It's like, I do want to play, but I hate the fact that I only play so few of my songs. I want to play them all, but I can't. I'll play this one though right now. Because you are the loveliness in my poo. Oh yeah. I'm not any longer embarrassed of you. You finally made your poo so beautiful. We need to see. We need to see. We need to know. We need to pen happening. And by all means, you judge a logic to life. We divisively unlike him, which will really judge. People everywhere gather up enemies, outraged at how they miss a sign. How do they set their priorities? These foreign backstabbing entities into win our misery, fall unnecessarily from their savage ways. Insulting, causing misery. We're stuck in such pain listening. We all partition directories and co-destruction of the whole damn world. Julie shares now her limits. Hoping truly will Julie shared for 4 minutes. And I get it. Julie always thought that she should have got to when she had the chance to buy. Judy soon forgot about it soon enough, although she ever called that. People everywhere gather up enemies, outraged at how they miss a sign. How do they set their priorities? These foreign backstabbing enemies into win on the misery, fall unnecessarily from their savage way. Insulting cars in history, it's again such petty larceny. All partition directories and call it destruction of the whole damn world. Boom. Don't touch any of my avocados. Walking away, making it fun, having a day. I'm not sure what the vocals are here yet. Still thinking about it. Maybe just have a little bit of vocals. Pretty solid as an instrumental. That's Kyra on the piano, for those of you who don't know. Making it fun, we're spending time running out of our heads. Still, now we're walking away. All today. Like that. Those will be the vocals for that. This thing, I think it's done. Nightfall. You ready? Not darling. Get ready. I want to see you undress. I don't like having to guess. Suspect this is the best I've ever seen. Undress. I don't like having to guess. I suspect this is the best I've ever seen. You ready? Ready. Darling. Ready. I'm sassy. I'm sassy. You're like a person in a concentration camp at the end of World War II. As such, when offered the steak or a burger or something, No, it's not very similar. I occasionally do. I do have some tracks where I use the same drums on them. That's pretty rare. I haven't done that for a while, I don't think. Occasionally I accidentally use the same drums in something, but that's not the case here. It's not especially similar either, but it's got a similar vibe as a track, I guess, like in the sense that it's a track that's built out of a bass line. And the main difference, so you're saying like sonically, it uses similar tones because I tend to affect things like that because of the tones I like. But musically, it's very different. One of the nice things about my music problems is that failing to deviate enough from my own habits is typically not one of them. I'll kind of explore certain aesthetic areas for a stretch of time, but I'm always looking to level up, you know? So, I mean, like, I like this song because it's clean. I like the song because it's got a small amount of lyrics and a small amount of vocals, but they have pop resonance to them. But I'm not deceiving myself about that song either. That's what I call a hamburger song. It's a track I threw together with a couple parts I liked, sounded good together, and it came together pretty well. But it's certainly not timeless, you know. And ultimately, my best works are going to be those that are written songs. That actually have NI trees to them. Like this song here, anybody who has any NI to it then at all will acknowledge that this song is realized properly as what it's supposed to be. It is what it is supposed to be, and that doesn't deviate from that at all. It's not created, it's discovered. Every life lived reaches the time when the road splits in two. Dark times of despair, times when it's hard to feel good. That's when I look for my sack full of solvency and that satchel of helpful goods. Satchel of helpful goods. Satchel of helpful goods. Satchel of helpful goods. Every life lived reaches an end when the road disappears. When I'm there, will there be anybody else around? Will I travel all alone? That's when I look for my sack full of solvency and a satchel filled up with home. And that satchel of nothing but bone. Satchel of helpful goods. 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 That song is not constructed. It was discovered or one way or another, it came to be exactly as it should be. There's nothing's changed about it. There's no ways in which I can say specifically it falls short. Of course, I don't necessarily have the greatest recording of it, but that's a different matter. Hi, Bargaret Fargaret. It's good to see you. I've often said you're the most Bargarety person I know. When I think about Bargarets, I think about you. I do. You're the most important Bargaret in my life. Let's play something. I wanted to play because of some reason. Oh, I know what I was going to play. The thing I have up right here. No, I don't want to participate in your survey. No, I don't have 5 more minutes to tell you about my experience. Stop with your requests, Google. What do I look like? An information provider? I'm not. I'm an information denier. You get no information from me. None at all. Screw you, Google. Screw you. Actually, you can have all my information. I don't care at all. My bad for being wrong about that, Google. I completely changed my mind 180 degrees. There we go. Here we go, you silly gooses. You and you, Mr. Tab 1 and Tab 2. There you go. Now you're really living large. Having daily picnics, complete with cheese and crackers. That's called living large, which is, a lot of harges. You are living on a time frame that I will never know. Alienation and humanity's soul. Imagine you a future after the collapse, returning to the urgency of isolated past. You're picturing community, free of metaphysics, hunting buffalo while you're picking red delicious. Knowledge of the seasons, wisdoms of old, fires blazing in the night to keep away the cold. Hostility is kept at bay by what you think is in the way of life as children of the land. With an agave weatherman. Imagine you a history that never could have been. You lecture at the college, advancement is to send, lamenting disconnection at every corporate act, asserting all your feelings and ignoring all the facts. Hostility is kept at bay. Hostility is kept at bay by what you think is in the way. By what you think is in the way of life as children of the land. With an agave weatherman. Find modernity just so banal. Wish you had been born in a time but now. And your experience won't run afoul of exception you might allow. Visualize nobility sipping on some port. Visualize nobility sipping on some port. Or tribes of peaceful savages and beautiful comport. But few people's history ever thusly did comport. Cause life was solitary, nasty, brutish, poor, and short. Hostility is kept at bay. Hostility is kept at bay. What you in the way? What you think is in the way of life as children of the land. With Santa Coffee Weatherman. Santa Coffee Weatherman. Agave Go. Hero of the Western world. Well, still the same question. What matters? Does this matter, what I'm doing? Probably not. Almost certainly not. And yet I do it anyway. One sometimes wonders why. When wondering whether, where's the sound? No, not there maybe then. It's someplace else. Quick access. This one? No. It's not that one. It's something else. Recent. Here we go. Okay, so this is the beat I just played you, but without any stuff, just a loop. One thing you'll learn about music. One thing you'll learn about beats. Some things are easy to rap over. Some things make you tap your feet. Just remember that I'm big, I'm bold, I'm beautiful. Stop checking out my tits. I'm big, I'm bold. Womanhood. Cloud, will you stop trying to prove Eckhart Tolle right? Eckhart Tolle tries to say that ego is not exactly bad, but bad. Eckhart Tolle is always saying that the ego seeks superiority. And I am saying he is full of shit. Then Cloud belies what I say. Cloud's final level is this. He is the very first and last kind of his. He works in 17 dimensions and 21 worlds. He's got knowledge of the boys and the girls. He's very kind. He comes here and shares his wisdom with us. Helps us to understand that we're all just a bunch of intuitors. Okay, guys, can someone advise me? I'm both dumb and lazy. How do I reach a level of being able to do complex things like quantum physics, advanced math, and artificial intelligence, given that I'm dumb and lazy? Well, excellent question, Sky Gear. First, you've got to go get some beakers and some Bunsen burners as well. These are the tools you need for complexity. It's called scientific stuff as well. Go get some science stuff. Do some science. do some experiments. Make a cup. Make a cup for a shirt with some science. Make your shirt cup with science. You know what I'm saying? You got to make things with science. Not sassy enough. Raphael, I'm sassy. I'm sassy as fuck. You don't think I'm sassy? Maybe I'm not sassy you enough. The Raphael, I'm sassy. S-A-S-S-Y, I'm sassy. I'm also fierce and classy, but mostly I'm just sassy. I'll sass that person over there. When I'm done, I'll sass the air around them so as they walk away, they walk through my sass again today. Then when I'm done sassing that person there, I'll come here and sass this chair. Don't matter who's sitting inside of it, whether it is Trump or it is Hitman or anything like that, I'll still sass them. I brought a bag full of sass, and I'm smearing it onto your face. It's a salve called Sassy Salve. I've got a very sassy salve. It's 1 part ointment, 1 part salve. Very sassy regardless. And as for the other tangible magic I know how to work with, I'm just one-sided in a give-and-take relationship, which I have little doubt you could cultivate as well as I would. Cultivating good relations. Cultivating good relations. Horse Mumbler has got an advocacy. He says, cultivate some good relations. I've cultivated relations with Raphael and Skygear. I've cultivated relations with Margaret in my nursery and my greenhouse. I've got a very green thumb, so I have got a lot of mouses spinning around, dancing, singing, picking my vegetables. Hey, yeah, if you're really an ENTP, Barger, then why don't you rap like me, Barger? Because I'm tired of you saying it's G, Barger, and I already told you when. Don't listen to me. I already told you. God. Margaret, you made me tantrum in my most childish manner. Why do you suppose that you made a me tantrum? It's 'cause you're still going on about your type. Woman, I told you your type like a year ago. It was INTPSO, yo. You denied it because you're wrong. You still talk about your type. So wrong from them. Why? Because you're obviously any tool function. And you're not an INFP, Barger. No, you're not an INFP. But if in fact, Barger, your tool function is the one called NE, then that makes you Barger an INTP. You're not an ENTP. That's me. I know ENTP like me, and you ain't no ENTP. That's an I in front of you there, G. That's why you spend so much time being introverted. You like to be introverted. You say, let me take that right side out shirt, turn it inside out, introverted. Let's take that shirt that's right side out and turn it inside out, that's introverted. I'm introverting my shirt and turning it inside out. Okay, I'm going to turn off this music now. And this is the thing, though. Tiny Man 66, I appreciate your praise a great deal. Thank you very much for acknowledging this. This is the point of this video. What matters? Does that matter? I have a skill that is kind of impressive. You say I can make shit up on the fly. But here's the catch. Like, it works live in certain contexts. This is not a very good context to do it live, but if I were like in a club or something, I can capture a room's. And like, this guy's different. I can accomplish that. I've done that before in performance settings. But when you're recording music and you're trying to make something that lasts, sometimes I use my freestyles and songs, and sometimes I don't. But regardless, rapping is a good way to make your song less timeless in general. It's not always the case. I mean, what could be more timeless than "Go Shorty, it's your birthday. And we're going to party like it's your birthday. I don't give a fuck. It's your birthday. That's why I got you this pony. I'm 50 motherfucking cent. I buy people ponies. Margaret, I'm going to call your bed of let's smoke. I'm going to raise you. Let's also smoke weed. Okay? I'm raising you. You think Conan O'Brien has a very well-developed extrovert feeling that needs to be? I mean, here's the thing about Conan. I've never found him funny, really. I don't think he's good. I have a hard time understanding what's wrong with him exactly, but there's something wrong with him that I don't like. True, Raphael. But note that rap battle from 8 Mile is timeless. It's not timeless as a track that you listen to. You need the visuals. Yeah, it's great. No doubt about that, Raphael. But it's not exactly a song, right? It's something a little bit different than that. And the reason it's so powerful is part because they built up so much emotion in the audience to want to see him get back at those guys, you know? And I just don't find him funny. I've never found him funny, and I acknowledge that he's got some funny ideas, but maybe it's because of his performance style or something. I find him there's a little bit too much rat feces in that burger for me, for my taste. You know, it might be perfectly fine. You might not even taste it, but you know it's there, and it's like, I'm not gonna eat that rat poo. That's funny. I have a bit of an obsession with Norway. Yeah, I want to know a fun word. Noisome. Yeah, noisome's a good word. I like that word. For all of your major comedians who have like shows on TV and stuff, there was a time when I liked Jon Stewart and thought he was funny. As he got more and more agenda driven, I stopped liking him. And also I sort of, once I internalized all of his joke styles and determined that there's basically variations on them, then what I was really enjoying was the clever writing when it happened. So I'm trying to decide, what should I do right now? What am I doing? Jon Stewart, I think, is an ENTP. I believe Jon Stewart to be an ENTP or possibly an INTP, but probably an ENTP. Which is why he's very disappointing to me, because of course it took until after he ended his show and actually spent some time in Washington D.C. Then he finally sort of acknowledged, okay, you know what, this whole hero government thing that I keep imagining is not possible in this democracy, and we may have come to realize it's fundamentally contraindicative of freedom and justice, but. You know, his politics were very wrong for a very long time, and he consistently would win debates against people. He's a good debater. I would have wiped the floor with him, but you know, that's because he was wrong, not because I'm a better debater. Is this always the case? When I say I'm going to wipe the floor with somebody, it's because I understand the arguments. It's like his arguments were fatally flawed, but he's a very good debater. Finishing the second half of Calc 1 first would be desirable. Calc 1. Should rewatch and make a song about your type. Okay, make a song about your type. There you go. Best damn song in history right now. Coming right up. Piano, drums, bass, guitar, but I can tell those other things somewhat too. It was round about a year ago. Some lady showed up. Her name was Eileen. For a little while, then she was Dark Phoenix, and then Jean Grey. Then she called herself a penis. Oh, I guess not really. She went back to Eileen. Finally, the far grip. I told her way back then, when she first came around, like I said, about a year ago. It seems pretty clear to me then that this woman was an INTP, and again, because I had typed one not that long previously. In the ensuing months, I heard an endless stream of nonsense, always questioning her type. Today I'm an INTJ. Yesterday has gone away. Tomorrow maybe I'll be ESFP. But I worked so hard and continued working to push the narrative that was true. Finally, in July 2020, Eileen came around and at last she agreed with me. There's your song, Eileen. Finally. You know, a person has finally achieved real moment of growth when they say, Eric, you were right. That's true growth. I guess I'll just publish that video. I recorded it separately, so might as well. Upload video. I'll title it An INTP Reaching Conclusion About Their Type in Song Form. How an INTP knows their type in song form, in parentheses. How INTP determined their type. Song. Okay. Next, we're going to push the meow, followed by the meow, followed by the meow, followed by the there you go. All done. So done. I am so done with this. That's where I draw the line. Right across the center of your mom's face. Exactly where I draw the line. Okay, now let's listen to it and see how it came out. Oh no, it's terrible. I'm so embarrassed now. I wish I hadn't put that up. Wait, I don't want to see it. I'll find out right now. Eric, don't make us listen to the thing you just played. I have to hear it myself, so I didn't get to listen to it. You guys did. I got to play it. You guys got to listen to it. So. Piano, drums, bass, guitar. Mostly, but those other things somewhat too. there. Stupid Eric. Yeah, I forget what I was doing in a short moment when I was watching that thing. After it was done, I totally forgot what I was doing. And so I just sat there sort of zoning out. Oh, what am I going to do now? Oh, wait, I'm live streaming. That's a little bit of the old SI fourth slot. Plus a lot of bong reps, plus not that much sleep. Maybe your ears stopped working. Why are you blaming the sound when it could have been your ears? Start with basic principle. It's usually horse mumbler's fault. And, do everything you can to eliminate that. It's not just the bong reps. It's funny because I was unsure about that for a long time. Like, it's hard for me to say whether how my SI was when I was a kid. I can't really remember if it was better. So, but seeing my E&P students like Jeffrey's way more scatterbrained than me even. And in fact, what I think I learned working with Jeffrey is that debate has helped me a lot to be to do two things that E&Ps have a hard time doing, which is focusing on one thing at a time. Because so often when I'm talking to Jeffrey, I know I can see it in his eyes. I do it myself. I can read this shit, and he's doing it to me, which he has no business doing it to, because I'm actually saying things that require his full attention. But he's thinking about something else while half listening to me. And he loses everything I give him. It's like, oh my God. Interviews are horrible. Okay. Did you get that that box of personalized Q-tips I sent to you? Because, we've had this conversation before. I've indicated to you I don't want it to happen again. Okay. When I speak, your ears need to be clean, ready to listen. INTPs are just as they have just as much trouble exercising NISE in their own life, or even more, but they're a little bit less scatterbrained in the sense that they can keep ideas in their head better. So, like, INTPs don't need to externalize their ideation nearly as frequently as ENTPs because they can keep it in their head longer and remember it, and they're not going to lose it as fast. And my brain gets full of information pretty quick when I start thinking about a complicated idea, and I can only think about it for a little bit of time before I start writing some things down or making a video about it. Because if I don't externalize ideation, it's also it's not comfortable for me. It's like I feel like I'm stuck going over the same beginning loops of the ideas because I'm trying to keep track of them, and I haven't put them outside yet, so I can't move any forward. Enema. Oh, Gen Xeal. I want to see the Gen Xeal's video. It is very rare Gen Xeal that I watch somebody else's videos. You are one lucky guy. You are, after all, half my generation. I'm a purebred Gen X. So, I got my doubts about half-breed generation girls like you, Gen X old. But still, at least you're partially my generation. Just my generation. Okay, I'm gonna go watch a little bit of this video. Nobody touched my sandwich. I can tell. I'll see the fingerprints if you touch it. You're not gonna get away with it. But why does it say learn to swim? Hashtag learn to swim. Why does it say hashtag learn to swim? Are you hosting a vaginal blood sploosh splash party without me? Yeah, I am not a Tool fan. I assumed it was. I got the gist of it. I mean, I deduced what it must be. Oh, the learn to swim part is Tool. There's okay. That was the part I didn't get. Okay, fine. You got a lot of hashtags in there. I always thought I could only do 3. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh my God, Sky Garrett. One day you and I are gonna come to fisticuffs over this matter. Okay. Also, it's a GIF. When I'm done with my business in the bathroom, I flush it all away. Travels down the pipes, out into the bay. I miss it, so I'll get my sea kayak to go and visit. Hello, pool, you're floating there amongst the assorted stuffs. I guess I should end this live stream and do something else now. I don't know what, though. Feel like this. What I'm doing right now. You guys, I feel like rocks. It's pronounced WOG. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for being here. You're welcome, Pedro. Thank you for caring.